We ended the last lecture module with the discussion of how concepts facilitate the encoding, organization, and retrieval of our knowledge. We'll take up a similar related topic in this lecture module. Specifically, we'll want to talk about how concepts allow us to bring past experiences to our present concerns. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus has a fragment. Loosely translated, it asserts that you never step into the same river twice. This quote from Heraclitus expresses a central theme of early Greek philosophy. The world is constantly changing, ever in flux, never the same from one moment to the next. Indeed, the Greek philosopher Plato thought that knowledge comes from identifying and exploiting the constancies in experience amidst the many changes. A poignant illustration of the ability of concepts to knit our experiences together, to bond the past with the present with the future, comes some 2,000 years later in a passage from René Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. Take, for example, this piece of wax. It is quite fresh, having been but recently taken from the beehive. It has not yet lost the sweetness of the honey it contained. It still retains somewhat the odor of the flowers from which it was gathered. Its color, figure, size are apparent to the sight. It is hard, cold, easily handled, and sounds when struck upon with the finger. In fine, all that contributes to make a body as distinctly known as possible is found in the one before us. But while I am speaking, let it be placed near the fire. What remained of the taste exhales, the smell evaporates, the color changes, its figure is destroyed, its size increases, it becomes liquid, it grows hot, it can hardly be handled, and although struck upon, it emits no sound. Does the same wax still remain after the change? It must be admitted that it does remain. No one doubts it, or judges otherwise. What then was it that I knew with so much distinctness in this piece of wax? Assuredly, it could be nothing of all that I observed by means of the senses, since all the things that fell under taste, smell, sight, touch, smell, and hearing are changed, and yet the same wax remains. What should we take away from Descartes' quotation? Well, I think part of what we should take away is that the world is a dynamic and changing place, and that in order for us to survive and to thrive, we need to be able to identify patterns amidst all that dynamic change. Concepts can allow us to interact with the world in a way that focuses us upon important similarities between objects, properties, events, and relations. This facilitates our ability to identify these common elements in our experiences, to record them, and then to project them into our future experiences. And this is what's at the heart of a concept's ability to license inductive inferences in learning. Concepts provide a way by which we can go beyond our immediately perceived experiences and call upon the past in order to project into the future. So by breaking the world up in ways that facilitate seeing connections between different moments in time, we can become more facile at making inductive inferences based on our past experiences. But this needn't be the case all the time. Concepts can fail to fulfill the function of facilitating inductive inferences when the categories delimited by the concept don't support induction, or when the information within a concept doesn't hold true for some cases. For instance, Gall's phrenology categorizes people by linking their character traits to skull shapes. While there is some localization of brain function within particular parts of the brain, the relationship between the brain's topography and the topography of the skull is minimal at best. There really isn't anything to be learned by examining people's skulls, particularly not things about the structure and function of the brain underneath it. And so Gall just had a bad set of concepts, a bad set of categories with which he was trying to make inductive inferences, and even though he was constantly trying to collect evidence, he was never really able to make any good, useful inductive inferences based upon his categorizations and the relationships between them. I'm going to end this module at this point. In the next module, we'll pivot, turning our attention away from talking about the general features of concepts and towards talking about historical and contemporary theories about the nature of concepts and how they function to categorize, organize, and infer.